Welcome back to Culture Brief, a Dennis-informed podcast where we navigate the constant stream of top stories in news, politics, sports, pop culture, and technology. And we're doing it all from a Christian perspective. I'm Connor Jones, and this is my friend Micah, and I just got to ask you, Micah, was that the worst Super Bowl of all time?
Yeah, hey, I'm Micah Tomasella. Welcome to Culture Brief. Connor, thank you for the wonderful introduction. And yes, to answer your direct question there, Connor, that was the worst Super Bowl ever, and I'll tell you why. It was actually a terrible, non-competitive Super Bowl. The commercials overall were kind of safe. And also, as a Cowboys fan, you kind of just wanted both teams to lose. And the team you really didn't want to win won, and the Eagles won. So that stunk.
We'll dive a little more into that in a little bit, but eager to hear all your thoughts there. Hey, let's dive into the brief.
All right, so I'm going to jump into our first story here. So we're going to talk about what's going on in Gaza today, give you a Middle East update. We're also going to do a Hollywood check-in. Connor's going to lead us through that, and then we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, our reactions to that, and the different parts that play out in that. And then we've got hot takes game for us, and then we'll go through some mailbag questions and then give you some things to tune into this week. So the first thing that I want to talk about today is what's going on in Gaza and what's happening in the Middle East. This is a constantly evolving story. And as Christians, we're called, I believe, to really care about what's going on in Israel, about what's going on in the Middle East. We should care for all people and, how things are kind of unfolding over there. So let me kind of give you a quick update on that. Let's go through the different talking points that we've all been hearing in the news. So the Gaza conflict remains at a critical juncture. President Trump turning up the heat on Hamas just a couple of days ago and neighboring countries in a rapidly evolving situation. The way that he turned the heat up, Connor, was he gave an ultimatum. So ultimately, Hamas decided to pause the ceasefire agreement and pause the release of hostages. And they accused Israel of violating the ceasefire terms. Israel officials have condemned this delay, calling it a breach of the agreement. But Trump basically said that if you don't release all of the hostages, Hamas, all of the Israeli hostages, by noon on Saturday, the ceasefire will end, and his words, all hell will break out, is what Trump said. And then the day following, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, backed that claim up and said, that's right, if all of the hostages are not released, then the ceasefire agreement will cease and fighting will ensue. Connor, what are you thinking with this right now?
Well, it's really, we've talked about this conflict quite a bit already. And so we've discussed how hard it is to watch from afar and just praying for the poor people who are just caught in the crossfire. And of course, the hostages, the Israeli hostages who are still in Hamas tunnels underground, and they are not in good conditions. And we so desperately would like to see them come home. And so, playing the strong hand here from Israel and the U.S.'s perspective is probably the way that, a lot of the world thinks it should go. Say, hey, you guys, you better give up these hostages back to us, or we're going to bring down fire on y'all. Whatever that looks like, if that's just a reopening of the Gaza war, if that's the U.S. starting to get involved. Trump's also, really in his campaigning, and even since he's been president again, has said that he's not going to support global wars. So whatever that means and whatever his threat here is, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some back channel conversations happening as well, but ultimately, I just want to see everybody come home, and I don't know what's going to happen after the war ends either. Even once all the hostages are back home, what's the next steps? Does the U.S. fulfill its promises to take over Gaza and potentially rebuild it and whatnot?
Yes, yeah.
Do neighboring countries come in? I know the King of Jordan was saying something to Trump yesterday.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he came and he visited the White House, King Abdullah from Jordan, and he said, I truly believe that with all the challenges that we have in the Middle East, I finally see how Trump, he says Trump, who can take us across the finish line to bring stability and peace and prosperity to all of us in the region. So Israel is surrounded. It's a tiny country. And something that we have to remember is that Israel values life, you mentioned this a few weeks ago, Connor, in a much different way than Hamas does. I'm not saying they view life differently than the average Palestinian does either. When you do research on this, you see that Hamas does not represent the will of the Palestinian people, and Hamas over and over again is willing to sacrifice the lives of the Palestinian people in order to do the one thing that Hamas was built and created to do, destroy the state of Israel. And so to be honest, I'm kind of with you to a certain extent that I support a measure that just stops this, because if this is just going to stop for a year and then another attack is going to happen, I mean, eventually this just has to be stopped. And, you hate to hear and think about all the casualties that'll take place, praying against all of that, but just praying for a more final solution to this, that Israel can live peaceably and that the Palestinians can have somewhere that they can live and they can live peaceably too. But there was also something that happened, Connor. There was a proposal for Palestinian relocation. And this is coming from Trump and his team and even allies in the region. So in a separate controversial move, Trump also suggested that Jordan and Egypt should take in Palestinian refugees from Gaza. And the goal is to help stabilize the region and redevelop Gaza. We mentioned it last week. Turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East is what Trump said. He proposed that the U.S. could finance the reconstruction of the region. However, this idea was met with a lot of different opinions. Initially, rejection from Jordan, but now Jordan's giving a different tune, and originally Egypt was rejecting it, and now Egypt's kind of being silent on it, because ultimately the countries that are stabilized in the area don't seem to be stepping up to take care of the problem either. And so, something's got to be done. So many have also voiced concerns about the Palestinians' right, that if they do have to temporarily leave, are they going to be able to come back? And Trump did walk back his comments of what a takeover of the region would look like. He's talking more about overseeing it, financing it, but not necessarily annexing that region, to be a U.S. territory or anything like that. But in response to the backlash, the Trump administration, like I said, emphasized that it would be temporary. And then in recent news too, Jordan did say that they would take in 2,000 kids with cancer or who are sick, who are in the Palestinian population. So that's a far cry from the 2 million that are being displaced, that are displaced because of this war that Hamas started. But at the same time, it's a start, right? And so we just hope that some things come from this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good too, because there are so many sick people in Palestine who aren't getting the medical care that they need if they do have cancer or some other disease or injuries or whatnot. So getting some of those people out of that region and into good medical care in Jordan is a great start, I think. But you're right. That is such a small percentage of the people who need a home.
But it's a start.
It's a start,
because you go from immediate rejection of doing anything whatsoever. Immediate, we don't want U.S. influence. We do not want to take in anybody, to all of a sudden the king of Jordan is coming to the White House and saying, I think this administration, this American administration, is the one to help bring peace to this region. And his country is right there, right? And so it is an interesting situation. But let's talk a little bit about what's next, like what's to come in this conflict, what to look out for, because this is consistently evolving. As the ceasefire hangs in the balance and Trump's demands grow more pressing, the world is watching closely. The hostage situation, like we talked about, coupled with Palestinian relocation proposals and regional opposition, it's added a lot of complexity to something that's already very fragile. This ceasefire deal has been very fragile. But with Trump's ultimatum in place, the coming days, it's just going to be very crucial to see what happens here. So far, Trump has given deadlines, and so far, for the most part, things have panned out at least in the way that he wants us to think it's panned out, right? So just to kind of give credence to other arguments that we've heard and give credence to both sides of the aisle. But so far, I think he knows something we don't know. I'm just not necessarily sure he puts that ultimatum out to the world if he's not at least very sure that they're going to end up releasing those hostages, but I could be totally wrong.
Well, we'll know very soon. About 2 days from now, whenever you're listening to this. Yeah, on Saturday, we'll see just what happens. Again, the prayer is that it leads to peace. So hopefully, honestly, the threats kind of work and bring the hostages home.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Dennison, our co-founder and our CEO, cultural theologian, in his most recent daily article, he wrote about this topic. And side note, Connor, I just want to give a plug to the daily article real quick. If you aren't subscribed to the daily article, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you're not subscribed, do me a favor. Go to denisonforum.org and subscribe to get the news discerned differently and biblically to your email inbox every single morning. Something relevant, something complex, but written in a way that helps us as believers process what's going on in the world and what we can actually do about it. It's been super crucial in my life. I know it's been crucial in your lives and millions of the people who consume it. So if you're not subscribed to it, subscribe to it. But Jim, in his article, gave 2 biblical reasons why Christians should care deeply about what happens in Gaza. Number 1, he said God loves all people, whether Jews or Arabs, Israelis or Palestinians, and that's from Galatians 3:28. And then number 2, he said we must pray. We're called to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's Psalm 122, verse 6. And that means interceding for the entire region for the sake of the world at large. And then he makes the point, Christ alone can bring lasting peace. There can be all of these agreements in place. There can be these ceasefires, these treaties signed, but only through Christ and Christ alone can true peace be found in our hearts, but also in that region and in that situation. So on many trips to Israel, he says his friends were always greeting him with shalom. Now, Connor and I had the pleasure of going to Israel, and we were always greeted with shalom, and it's a Hebrew word translated as peace. However, it means far more than the absence of violence. Biblical peace means right relations with God, others, and ourselves. And he also says we're called to pray and work for such peace for Jerusalem and the broader Middle East for the sake of not only the Jews and the Palestinians, but the world at large. This means ultimately that we are to pray and work for Jews and Muslims to come to Christ as their Messiah and Lord. Because when we accept that free gift of salvation and surrender our lives to Jesus, and we then have access to God's power in our lives, that's what brings lasting peace, is when people's hearts truly change and surrender to Jesus. And then he ends his article with a quote from C.S. Lewis. Love C.S. Lewis. And he says, God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from himself, because it's not there. There's no such thing. And then he quoted one of my all-time heroes, Billy Graham, and he said, Billy Graham said this, Christ alone can bring lasting peace, peace with God, peace among men and nations, and peace within our hearts. Christ alone can do that.
Amen. Yeah, good word. It's all so true. Grateful for Christ's peace, but he is the only way. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Money won't do it. Fame won't do it. Only Christ.
That's right. That's right. So money and fame, Connor, what's our next story?
Yeah, let's check out what's going on in Hollywood, because there's some juicy stories happening over there.
Dude, it's been crazy. Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. Okay, first and foremost, I want to do a quick check-in on the Emilia Pérez movie that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Remember, we discussed the Oscar nominations came out, and this movie that received terrible reviews and had basically no audience that enjoyed it and whatnot, somehow received 13 Oscar nominations, and we discussed why.
Most of all time, right? Most of all time.
It's up there. I don't know if it's
it
most
was
of all
like
time or if it's
close.
tied.
It was like top, something like that, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of insane. What we discuss is the reasons why, and we think it's because Hollywood has an agenda, and because the movie surrounds a character that is transgender. That character is also played by a transgender actor named Carla Sofia Gascon, who was born male, has transitioned into female, and was nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. We discussed all that. I would suggest going to that episode from a few weeks ago to hear more about our discussions there. All this to say, it's all starting to backfire, Micah. What was supposed to be this big progressive movement and a show of force for Hollywood to say, hey, we are another step ahead and potentially a rebuttal to the election results, is now starting to backfire. And that's because Carla Sofia Gascon, the transgender actor, had posts on social media from previous years that were extremely offensive and derogatory.
Okay.
They were typically, racist and Islamophobic. Sorry, that's not funny, but I'm just like, it's just amazing to me that somehow Netflix, who produced this movie, did not have a team go back and find these social media posts just from recent years and clean it out before they started putting this person on the front page of everything and up front for this movie, the star of their movie, and trying to get them nominated for Oscars and winning Oscars. One of these posts said, Islam is a, quote, hotbed of infection for humanity.
Okay. All right.
Pretty brutal. Another one, he tweeted about his co-star, Selena Gomez, in 2022, calling her a, quote, rich rat who is obsessed with her ex, Justin Bieber, and his wife, Hailey Bieber.
Now that's funny. That's just awkward. That's just awkward.
That was literally 3 years ago, and
Just
then
scroll,
they started.
just scroll on the timeline a little bit, and you can.
It's just crazy. How did no one know this? Anyways,
Yeah,
obviously,
because,
it's backfiring.
if they did, they would have deleted it, right? I mean, if they known about it and they still wanted to hire. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Well, anyway, either way, even after the movie, they had Gascon star in it, whatnot. There's still typically PR teams whose entire job is to go through and clean out anything that could backfire, and it is backfiring. And it's just, in my opinion, it's showing the other side of promoting something that does not add up. That there's, they're trying to push something, an agenda here, but it's all starting to backfire. Anyways, Gascon has apologized, went on CNN and cried on CNN. And
you got to do that.
Well, yeah, you do. Also, that was not sanctioned by Netflix or the PR team. Gascon went and did that all by themselves. And
you have to go cry on live TV if you're actually going to apologize, though. I mean, everybody knows that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And now Netflix is distancing themselves. Zoe Saldana, who is also up for Best Supporting Actress and was the co-star of the movie, is distancing herself from this whole thing. And Selena Gomez is as well. It's tainting the whole movie. Probably going to end up just, honestly, they may not win any of these 13 Oscars. Definitely won't get Best Leading Actress, which I think is a really good thing because this is not an actual female getting nominated for actress. Right. So I think that means an actual biological female will for sure get it.
It probably is. If I can just interject, would, if I was a betting man, I'd say they're most definitely not going to win. This movie will not win any awards because it seems like the Oscars agenda is to continue to do things to push the envelope, but also follow along with the crowd and whatever Hollywood is believing at that time or pushing at that time, whatever the culture is. So they're going to be very susceptible to these headwinds. And I bet you that this movie won't win anything.
It very well may not. I would not be surprised. And honestly, I wanted to read this quote because I was reading from Vanity Fair about this whole thing. And I thought this one little snippet summed it up perfectly. They said, "The opportunity to vote for a history-making nomination, to champion a film with values and subtle but clear opposition to the Trump administration was obvious. This was something for the industry to feel good about. But while Emilia Pérez still has its champions, it is no longer a cause to rally around." So kind of just reiterating what you just said. They're probably, Hollywood likes to push the envelope, but they follow the headwinds, and this is just not going to end up being the thing that they thought it was going to be.
Everybody, they have to follow their own rules, right? So, like, if they're going to set the rules for this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and it's not really based on anything concrete, anything foundational, like I believe that we get to base our faith on and what makes it so powerful, it's based on what the emotions and feelings are of the moment. So, you even project to like, what was it like 5 years ago? What will it be 5 years from now? It's going to change because it's not founded on anything solid or foundational, right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, and then so what happens is that all comes crumbling down when there's no actual foundation.
That's right.
And the movie is ultimately damaged. It was already not well received, so this whole thing's just been kind of a big joke in my opinion. So now that they put it up on a pedestal, it's coming back down to where it probably actually belongs, which is without any awards. Anyways, that's one whole debacle. Another one just overtaking Hollywood, and I'm sure many of you have seen some of the headlines, but if you're not sure of everything, I'm going to run this down. Have you heard, Micah, about the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni drama?
I know all about it. My wife talks about it all the time because this story has taken twists and turns, and normally stories blow over. But this has been in the news for months, and you've seen public opinion. I know that you're going to talk about it, but you've seen public opinions like switch, where I thought everybody was on one side. Now everybody's on the other side when everything comes out and like all the receipts. But yes, tell us about it. This has actually been very interesting.
Yeah, so as you know, Blake Lively, A-list actress, married to A-list actor Ryan Reynolds, if you don't know who that is, Deadpool, and a whole bunch of other movies.
Who are typically very liked. These two people are very liked. They don't typically do a lot of controversial things either. They're just like, they have a family. They're typically very liked.
Yeah, they're, like I said, power couples. They're one of the elite couples. Everybody loves them. They have a great curated image. Well, it's all starting to kind of crumble down, similar to the Emilia Pérez thing. So here's what's happened. Blake Lively was in the movie It Ends With Us. That was a Colleen Hoover book very popular, came out this past summer in August. The movie was directed and also starred in by Justin Baldoni. So he was the main male star in that movie, opposite Blake Lively. And the movie surrounds domestic violence. Blake Lively was the love interest here, and she was in love with Justin Baldoni's character. Domestic violence got involved. It spills out in this whole story. Anyways, when the movie started to come out, people started to notice that Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively were not doing any press together. They were no longer following each other on social media, and everything was really awkward between the two of them. They were kind of avoiding answering questions about each other. It was very odd. And then Lively started getting criticized because at every press conference that she was at, or not conference, but like on red carpets or any sort of press questioning, she was taking a very light approach when promoting this film that's on a very heavy topic of domestic violence. And so Baldoni, opposite, was going very hard on that, saying men have to be better, no more domestic violence. And his whole brand is men need to be better. He's been preaching this for years. He did a TED Talk in 2018 about this, about manliness and being a true man is not what the world tells you it is. It's being softer and gentler, all this stuff. It's very interesting.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You know. Anyway, so that was all very odd. And Blake Lively took a lot of heat during that time because of the way she was approaching press tour. And then also past press tour clips were going on social media viral of her being rude and joking with interviewers and making fun of them and kind of what people were calling a mean girl. So it all, you know, for about a month, it was kind of dominating everything, blew over a little bit. Then on Christmas week, the New York Times published a bombshell report that revealed Lively had filed a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, accusing him of sexual harassment and then orchestrating this massive PR smear campaign to damage her reputation and business, which could explain why she was getting so much heat and why she was being misled on press tours and where all these clips are coming from past years and all of that it was being dug up by a PR team and getting basically boosted on social media to go viral. She claims that all of that PR smear campaign damaged her business of hair care products and cost her sales by 78% and caused her severe emotional distress. She's been laying low for quite a few months now. Ryan Reynolds kind of has too. Anyways, Baldoni, he denied all those allegations, but then he was dropped by his management and had his awards that were surrounding his topic on being a better man all rescinded. And he lost his podcast co-host where they talked about basically feminism and being a better man. So it all kind of came crumbling down for him. In response, Baldoni sued the New York Times for $250 million. That is an insane amount of money. And then he also sued Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, alleging that they tried to destroy his career. So there's a trial date for those lawsuits. That's going to be March 9th, 2026. So it's a ways off. But I do think it's going to be very similar to what we saw with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, where it was these very famous people, and it just became a big event, and people watched that trial live and everything. So I think we'll see something like that should it actually go to trial and there's no settlement. Anyways, Micah, now the internet is just divided. People are either Team Blake or Team Justin. It feels kind of like Twilight all over again. Team Edward.
What are you?
Team Jacob. Well, I'm neither because, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. I don't really know the truth here. I don't think anybody does. And it's like you were saying, people are divided here. But it seems like every week, one of these two teams is like the winning team. Some new statement gets said, some new source comes out, some new text are released or whatnot, showing damage from either side. And people are like, well, now this person's the one who's in the right, and this person's the one who's in the right.
Because there's like all these texts from Ryan Reynolds, kind of these condescending texts from Ryan Reynolds that have been released to Justin Baldoni. I mean, I feel like my opinion has kind of shifted, but it's hard to know what the truth is.
I'm telling you, every week it seems like something new. And then so this past week, the big news was Taylor Swift. You know, she got drawn into this whole thing because she was apparently at one of these meetings between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Taylor Swift and Blake are like really close friends. They're always seen together. They go on double dates. There? What Taylor? Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was at the meeting.
Why though? I mean, what?
Well, that's the question, right? Baldoni is saying it was to, you know, leverage her fame in an intimidation tactic to make him feel pressure, saying, hey, look who my best friend is. I've got all the power in the world. I'm going to have the PR side. I'm going to have the public image side on, my, you know, so, and then what's interesting is Taylor is now apparently through leaked sources been very frustrated with this whole situation and does not want to be involved, wants to be like taken out of this because it's obviously damaging her name. So you may have noticed that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were not at the Super Bowl with Taylor Swift this year, up in the suite like they were last year. So anyways, the whole thing's just been kind of weird. Here's the deal, Micah. The truth is hard to know sometimes, especially when you're not in the room. You're not in those messages. You're not aware of who's hiring who's saying what, who's going to different media sources to leak different information, all of that. So the truth remains unclear. But the scandal has impacted both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni and trickled into impacting even Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift's reputation and image. And ultimately, Micah, it's overshadowed the film, which was about domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And so now we're all focused on the case that we're seeing here, where it highlights the ruthless nature of, Hollywood's PR machine, which, builds reputations and destroys reputations. That's literally Hollywood's whole thing with PR is they work hard to curate images or destroy images. So, Michael, what should we make of all of this? These stories kind of seem like they don't matter to us unless we're living in the Hollywood bubble, even though it's in everybody's social media feeds and all of that. But, even if you don't care that much about this, or if you eat up all this drama and you're like in the know on every little thing that's coming out and you're following every development, we can still glean some wisdom from this and from these PR disasters. And I would say, I point back to Numbers 32:23, which says, your sin will find you out. And this is true for the Emilia Pérez thing and this whole saga with Baldoni and Lively. So I imagine Carla Sofia Gascon figured Hollywood would just move forward with rose-colored glasses without thinking much about the post of the past. But the reality is, everyone involved with Emilia Pérez is having to suffer the consequences for the sinful heart Gascon had when posting hateful tweets. Those were moments of a soured heart, posting racist or Islamophobic or whatever it is, misogynistic stuff. And it's now affecting everyone involved with that movie. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni are probably, honestly, both responsible for sinful actions over the course of the last year, Mm-hmm. And now those deeds are being spilled out fully in the public image and for the public to divulge. I can't even imagine how all the parties are feeling right now. Even fame cannot hide humiliation. I would actually guess it probably just magnifies that humiliation. It makes it really hard.
Yep.
Sin is something, Micah, that we all struggle with. And these stories, I think we can take as a reminder that it can come back to haunt us. But we also know that the gospel offers us grace and rescues us from that sin. And I would say just reflect on that beautiful truth this week and pray that these Hollywood dramas would ultimately shine a light on the reality of the saving grace of Jesus. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's like you talked about in the first segment there. There's only one truth, and that one truth is Christ. He's the only way to peace, whether it's in Gaza or PR, scandal, whatever it is. We have the one true peace in Jesus Christ, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good stuff, Connor. Thanks for catching us up on that, and that's a very good spiritual application. I have two quick thoughts on that. The first thing I think about is, be careful what you submit yourself to. When you submit yourself, in this example, to the Hollywood machine, to the ideals of something that that we talked about earlier is consistently changing. Well, be ready to meet some resistance. Be ready for there to be difficulty because you're submitting yourself and giving all of yourself to something that will change, that has moving goalposts, that isn't founded on something foundational. And then second, I think about these PR machines that you're talking about, creating these curated images. That verse from Numbers 32 is perfect, that your sin will find you out, because you can only fake it for so long. You can only be somebody that you're not for so long. And the verse that I think about is Hebrews 13:8. And I love this verse. I probably said it before on the podcast. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So be careful what you submit yourself to. And if you submit yourself to something, make sure it's solid, concrete, and has eternal reasoning, has eternal impact. So yeah, Connor, thanks for sharing that story with us. Do you want to talk about the Super Bowl for a minute?
Yeah, I really, really do. Because
let's talk about it.
Like we said at the beginning, it felt like the worst Super Bowl ever, but we can still recap a few things here. So, as everybody knows, the Philadelphia Eagles our least favorite team in the entire league. It's so hard, man. I hate this. They won, and they didn't just win. They stinking dominated the Kansas City Chiefs.
Crushed
and
them.
The score doesn't even really show how the game went because it ended up at Eagles winning 40-22, but we all know that it probably should have been 40-6.
Yeah.
The Chiefs just had some last minute
garbage time.
Touchdowns, which honestly were impressive, and if they had been earlier in the game, would have been awesome. Anyways, so the Chiefs did not win that historic three-peat, and they all just looked so defeated. Patrick Mahomes looked defeated. Travis Kelce looked defeated. All of that was just very interesting. Jalen Hurts, he did win Super Bowl MVP. He played his heart out, although I thought Cooper DeJean, who had that pick six in the first quarter, might get that MVP award.
That really swung the momentum in the direction of the Eagles after Patrick Mahomes threw that pick in a way that I don't think that they were able to overcome. It just all of a sudden was 21-0, right? And so it's hard to overcome that.
Yeah, and then he threw another interception pretty close to their end zone later on in the game. Also, I just got to say, I feel like Jake Elliott, the kicker for the Eagles, should have been considered for MVP. That dude kicked I don't even know, 6 or 7 field goals.
Yeah, kickers need more respect.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
McAfee. Maybe. Anyways, Micah, was this the end of the Chiefs dynasty?
No.
Okay, so you think they're gonna work their way back here?
As long as you have the best quarterback in the NFL, you're going to be competitive. It's like any team sport. You have the best player, you have a chance. You have an open window. Now, I think that there's going to be some retirements. People are talking about Travis Kelce retiring, which is the long-time tight end for the Chiefs, who's broken all these records, going to go down as one of the best tight ends ever. He might be retiring. Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift, all those types of things. But no, their reign is not over as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, the Patriots kind of did that. They had their few years of a complete dynasty, had a few down years, and then they came back and they won some more Super Bowls. And then Tom Brady left and won another one with the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I also think they've got the best coach in the league. So I don't think that their dynasty is necessarily going to be over. But I do think they are going to have to learn some things and figure out a way to beat some of these more, I would say, talented teams. Because I do think the Eagles, just from a talent perspective, had the advantage this week.
For sure. So what did you think about the halftime show, Connor?
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar. So first off, I'm not a massive Kendrick Lamar fan. I know a few of his songs. I did know that he's been in a beef with Drake for several months, and I had a feeling he was going to turn this into a whole escapade to just damage Drake even more and just say, hey, look at me. I win. I'm the one performing at the halftime
of
the biggest stage on the world.
Another celebrity feud, Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Yeah.
It just all spills back into what we talked about just a minute ago with celebrity feuds and image and everything. Anyways, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. I didn't find myself highly entertained by it. What did you think?
I had to look up some of the meaning afterwards because I was so curious. I mean, you had Samuel L. Jackson as like Uncle Sam during the performance, and I think there was kind of 2 points to this. The first point was, hey, Drake, look at me. I won. I'm here. I'm performing at the Super Bowl, like you said, trying to kind of get a leg up in their feud. But then the second thing was kind of a cultural commentary of what it feels like to be a black person in America was kind of his point of the halftime show. And so, I kind of appreciate how much thought and how like artistic it was. I just didn't fully understand it in the moment. Would have been a great time for subtitles, by the way, just because he was rapping so fast.
I don't think the subtitles could have kept up.
Yeah, right. I mean, so like I appreciated the work that went into it, and just because we don't listen, just because some people might not listen to that kind of music, well, that doesn't invalidate it as a good performance or not. You know what I mean? So I mean, I guess I'm just kind of neutral. I'm definitely not going to say it was bad, and it didn't captivate me either. So
yeah, I'm not saying it was bad either. I'm not sure. In my opinion, I'm not sure he was the right person for the Super Bowl halftime show. I think you got to go with someone that most people know. Like
That's right.
Appreciated
it felt a little bit more niche, but that could just be us though. I mean, because he's like one of the most streamed artists of the last 5 years, and so I mean,
well, he is.
I mean, it could have just been. It could just be more us. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. What happened to the days of like, George Strait standing up there with just a guitar? It wasn't like a big dance.
We would love that, but a lot of people might not, Okay, so what was your favorite commercial though?
Oh man, did you see that commercial with it was Rocket Mortgage, which they didn't make that super clear that was on them, but I like the message of the commercial where sorry, at the end it just
Bad
said
branding?
Rocket and literally gave no explanation. So I was like, I'm gonna have to find out who this is. Anyways, Rocket Mortgage did a commercial where they showed like families, young couples buying homes,
I saw
raising babies,
I saw that.
small towns. It was very kind of American dream centric, and that was the message of the commercial was you can achieve the American dream, chase it, whatnot. And they had "Take Me Home, Country Roads" in the background. And I just loved it. And here's why. I think in past years, a lot of these commercials have gone either super like, quote unquote, like woke or very sexualized or whatnot. This just felt like a very pure commercial that was saying, start a family, have a baby, get married, buy a house, and live
The American dream is still possible. Yeah.
And you got this
Love
classic, one of the most famous songs of all time in America, "Take Me Home, Country Roads" by John Denver's playing in the background.
You want to sing
they
it?
cut.
You want to sing it?
You don't want to hear me sing that, no. But I love that song. I mean, what's cool is then they cut over, and that was the last commercial, and it cut over the stadium. The stadium was singing the song because everybody loves to just belt that one out when it's going on at a stadium. I thought it was cool. I just love the message of it. Like, hey, this is the American dream. Chase it.
I love that.
What was your favorite?
I did enjoy that commercial. Another one was, I think it was in the first quarter. I just thought it was really funny. I also thought it was random. I didn't understand everything that was going on, but it was like a 90-second commercial. I mean, it just lasted forever, but it was the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with the Affleck brothers, Ben and Casey, and then Jeremy Strong, who's the method actor. And it was just a really funny commercial about how people just want coffee. And then it was like this Dunkin' Donuts crowd versus this. It was very obvious they were making fun of the Starbucks crowd, and it was like, we don't need all the oat milk and non-fat and skim milk or whatever. I just want black coffee with a shot of cream or, something like that. And I just thought the commercial was funny and honestly kind of relatable of like coffee's just fuel, so I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't think it was as funny as last year's Duncan ones that had Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Tom Brady.
No, honestly, overall, I didn't find myself cracking up that much in these commercials, so I felt like that was one of the funniest ones. But this crop of commercials just wasn't super funny. Yeah,
we gotta get better commercials. If you're on marketing teams, please, I don't know, do better.
We need to get funnier movies, shows, commercials. I mean, we're just losing comedy, man. But that's just a different story. For a different time.
That is. Okay. Well, all of that to say, hold on. Before we move on, I want to point out one quick story. Jalen Hurts, who won the MVP, and I know he's the quarterback of the Eagles, so that's tough. But we just got to talk about his story real fast.
Yeah.
In 2018, do you remember when he was the quarterback at Alabama? He was in the national championship, and he was playing horrible. So at halftime, he got benched. And they brought out Tua Tagovailoa, who came in and ended up winning the game. And everyone was like, man, that stinks. Jalen Hurts, his career may be done. Tua is going to be the new quarterback at Alabama. He had the chance to just be a baby and complain about it. And I think a lot of players would have. But he didn't. He's kept his head up high. He actually finished that game really well, standing on the sideline and supporting his teammates and talking to Tua and celebrating with him when they won the national championship, even knowing that his career might be damaged based off of the benching. He ended up transferring to OU, playing his mind out, and then he got second place in the Heisman Trophy running that year. Gets drafted by the Eagles, and now he has been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl and won Super Bowl MVP. I just think it's one of those stories where you're like, okay, this is a guy who put his head down and just dug into his craft and improved. He had the chance to quit. He had the chance to complain. He never did that. He realized he could learn, and I think it's perfect for an application of Proverbs 11:12 that says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. And maybe that benching ended up being the humbling thing that he needed. I don't know. I don't know what his story was at that moment. But I do think he's got strong character, and he's always shown that. He's always been positive. And all week at press conferences at Super Bowl week, he was giving the glory to God, which is just cool.
Very specifically Jesus Christ too. Like he was very, very specific about that. I honestly hate how much I really like him, like as a person, just like as a
Right.
Cowboys fan. He's the quarterback for the Eagles, our our rivals, right? Just won the Super Bowl, but Jalen Hurts has made the right stuff. And again, I think he's building his life on the solid rock. And I think that you just see that in the way that he carries himself and the way that he handles the roller coasters of his career. Imagine those types of roller coasters. And that's why it's a great example for why it's worth us basing our life off of it too. So that's a great point, Connor. Well, that was great. We ran through all the top stories. Let's jump into something I'd like to call executive order, yay or nay. Connor, are you ready?
Okay. I guess so. What are we doing here?
Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 executive orders.
Okay.
You just say yay or nay and give me a 1-sentence explanation of why you are for or against it. So
these are executive orders from Trump over the last last few weeks. Okay,
so
okay, gotcha.
These are actual executive orders. I'm just giving 3. I mean, there are so many, and not all of these are jokes either, right? Like I'm not saying that we're handling this in a joking way at all. However, it's a new executive order every day. And so might as well just see kind of how we feel about it. And let's talk about a serious one and then a couple more random ones that for some reason also kind of make sense. But anyway, all right, Connor, first one, executive order, no more biological boys and girls sports.
Oh, I'm so for that. I actually think most of the country is for that too. So
yay or nay?
Oh, sorry. Yay.
There you go. Thank you. I am.
You asked.
That's a yay from me as well. That's a yay from me as well.
Sorry, you asked for a sentence. I was going to give you a sentence. Anyways, I do think it's a good one. Yeah, it just makes sense.
I agree. It's just common sense. It doesn't have to be political. It's common sense. Second, no more pennies, Connor. Trump wants the U.S. Mint to stop creating pennies. And basically it came down to a penny is worth 1 cent, and it was like 3.5 cents to create one. So are you pro no more pennies? Are you yay or nay?
As up to 8th grade, I had a coin collection and I thought pennies were super cool.
That makes sense for you. That makes a lot of sense that you did that.
Anyways, the coin totally collection part of me is like, no. The fiscal sense of me is like, yeah, this makes sense. Who's using pennies anymore? Also, how many pennies go missing every year? Thrown into fountains and lakes.
What else did you collect? What else did you collect? Stamps.
Yeah, man. I didn't have the money to collect cars.
I collected baseball cards, and then I also had a coin collection where I had quarters from every state and American territory. So I did have a small coin collection. Yeah, you probably had. That was probably the tip of the iceberg for you.
Dude, I had the whole map laid out, everything. Yeah, I was a
okay,
nerd.
So overall, we are yay, no more pennies.
Yeah.
Just to save the money. Okay, I'm with you. All right, last one. No more paper straws. Yay or nay?
I'm so here for this. I absolutely hate those things.
You want to talk about something I'm going to come out in complete support of. And I am sorry if we get backlash on this. I am so sick of paper straws. This is 2025, and they still melt after 5 minutes. We cannot figure out how to make a paper straw that is functional for more than 5 minutes. No, we can't.
It's because paper isn't meant to get wet. That's just the way it is. So
Good point. Yeah.
I mean,
good point.
I'm here for this. I'm sure environmentalists are not happy about it, but Okay, hey, Micah, that was fun, but let's hit the mailbag real fast because we did get a message this week from Jen who asked us a great question. I think we should try to tackle it really quickly. She said, she emailed us at culturebrief@denisoninformed.org, so you can do the same thing if you're listening to this. You want to ask questions, you want to bring up a topic, we'd love to talk about it. Culturebrief@denisoninformed.org. Okay, so Jen said,
send them.
I'm trying to follow the Trump administration around cryptocurrency regulations coming down the pipeline. How will that impact the cryptocurrency market and trading? Should I invest in US-based cryptocurrencies? And then she added on a question on the spiritual side. Is crypto part of the central money exchange in Revelation 13:17? Should Christians care about crypto? Does a cashless society note that we are in the end times? Interesting question, Jen. Love it.
Jen,
Micah, what do you think?
Well, let's just say, I opened up that word of God, read Revelation 13:17, and I Googled like any good American would. Maybe ask ChatGPT for some help on this, just to make sure that I can try to answer this question. But I did prepare an answer for both. Please feel free to chime in, Connor. This is a great question, Jen. Thank you for this. So this is a very pro-crypto administration. So comparing itself to the Biden administration, they were very skeptical on crypto. There was very little support from the government on cryptocurrency and investing in that. So I'd say from my very non-professional opinion, I'm not licensed. Let me just clarify that. So I cannot give financial advice, but sure, go for it. Invest in it if you want to invest in it. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's just a great principle. If you ask one of our best buds, Cody, who's a CPA and a CFP, he would say absolutely not. Do not invest in crypto. But what does he know? Go ahead.
I mean, he is a financial advisor. He seems to know some stuff. So my thought is, just do your research, figure out what's best. Yeah. I would say be very, very careful. There are so many scammers out there in crypto and meme coins that are just being created literally every day. People are taking celebrity names
every day,
creating a coin. So if you're going to do it, just make sure you're investing in legit coins. Obviously, Bitcoin's big, Litecoin, is it Ethereum? There's several that are really big and more established, but it's all unregulated right now.
Dogecoin?
I mean, Doge is a big one. Obviously, now that we've got a government department named after that. So
it gets kind of confusing. Yeah.
It does. Well, I mean, it was quite literally named after the coin. So it is what it is. It's just an interesting space. Just do your research and be smart about it. Michael, what about that spiritual side of this?
Yeah. So the second question, is crypto part of the central money exchange in Revelation 13:17? And should Christians care about crypto? Does a cashless society note we're in the end times? So here's what Revelation 13:17 says. So that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of its name. So a great resource for any questions that you might have, I'm going to plug this here, is gotquestions.org. It's a wonderful Christian resource and website to give biblical truth to answers of just anything you could possibly think of. Just go on that website and type in anything. It's great. So a cashless society could make it easier for a overreaching government, a totalitarian type of government to control citizens, but this isn't necessarily linked to the end times. We've been seeing that since the dawn of time. People get power, organizations get power, and the wrong people are in place, and they want to do things for personal gain, and so they exploit their citizens, right? So it doesn't indicate that the Lord's return is imminent specifically, I would say, but as believers, we've always been warned that he's going to return at any time, and Jesus also tells us we'll never know the exact day or hour, so keep on trying to guess. You're not going to be able to guess. Even before electronic transactions existed, this is what the truth has been, right? So we're navigating this world, this virtual world, this technological world, that is new to history in the way that we're experiencing it now. And so ultimately, every day brings us closer to his return. Let's just be ready for it. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I honestly don't even have anything to add. I just think you hit it right on the head. So great.
Boom. Thank you, gotquestions.org. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jen, for sending the question. Again, send us anything you'd like to at culturebrief@dennisonforum.org. Okay, Micah, before we head out, let's give the people some things that they should tune in for or watch out for.
Give the people what they want. Let's give the people what they want.
First off, if you are unaware and you're listening to this on Thursday, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So
right.
If you forgot, make sure you get your significant other something, nice, sweet, take them out to dinner, whatever it is.
Tell them you love them.
Micah, do you have any Valentine's Day traditions?
Spending time with my wife. It's been fun to do some Valentine's Day things with our daughters, right? Just to show them that we love them.
That's cute.
And all of that stuff. I mean, I think the tradition just continues to mold that as long as I'm with the people that I love, then Valentine's Day is great. I'm not trying to be corny there. It's just, that's my tradition.
Yeah, very deep. My tradition is we go to Waffle House. So not as
I knew
deep
that.
as your
I knew
application.
that. I knew that you did that.
My
For
wife
a while,
and I have
went
gone to Waffle
Chili's
House
every Valentine's Day, and then we just kind of stopped. I think we've kind of gone from we love Chili's to we like Chili's. But anyway, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, look, here's the deal. I loved Waffle House in college, so we started going on Valentine's Day because we were poor, and so we would just go to across the street over to Waffle House, and it's just stuck ever since. So I think this year will be like our 8th or 9th year of going there.
I love that you guys do that. Never stop doing that. Unless Waffle House goes out of business. But you know what? Waffle House keeps America running. I think that's
Literally.
their tagline. Yeah.
It's something like that. Okay. This Sunday, you may not care about this, but I kind of care. Daytona 500. 2:30 Eastern on Fox Sports. If you're a racing fan, NASCAR fan, we all know this is the big one. This is the Super Bowl of NASCAR. So tune in.
Boogity boogity. Let's go racing, boys. If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah. Well, yep. There's Will Ferrell and Darrell Waltrip in one line. Love it. Okay. This is interesting. SNL is celebrating their 50th anniversary with a massive show on Sunday night, which I think is kind of weird because it's Saturday Night Live. Anyways,
that is weird.
I don't get that. 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC. They're going to have like apparently all, the people who've been on the show for the last 5 decades coming back. Tons of stars. It's going to be a big deal. If you're a big SNL fan, cool. This is going to be made and tailored for you. I will maybe tune in. We will see.
I'll probably watch some highlights.
The Daytona 500. So we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. You got a busy Sunday.
Well, football's gone. You got to fill it with something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Culture Brief, a Denison Forum podcast. All articles and videos mentioned will be linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please please subscribe, and rate and review the show. That's how we grow it. Interact, leave comments, rate and review it on wherever you're consuming it. Just look for that. You'll be able to find it. And please share it with a friend who could use it as well. We'll see you guys next Thursday.